Welcome to A Double
and
Dice
with your host Kim
and Jocelyn.
Pour your favorite beverage,
Pull up a comfy chair,
because we are ready to roll.
Welcome to episode 85 of A Double and Dice, and today we have a special guest. It's been a while since we've actually had a guest.
Yeah,
so
like 2 or 3 episodes?
No. When did
Rob
we have a
was
guest
on the podcast. Does he not count as a special guest?
Wait, that was a while ago. No, he doesn't count as a special guest because he's been on the podcast before. Okay. This person has never been on the podcast before.
Rob, I think
I have actually.
As he secretly talks, anybody could guess who this is. Yes, you have. Actually, yes, you were on a clip, weren't you?
I was on a game show.
Yep.
See, my memory is terrible. I'd say my memory is like 2 seconds, okay? I remember, I have a 2-second memory span. Don't ask me anything like 2 seconds ago because I'll totally forget. All right, so ignore everything I said. We have a special guest who's been on the podcast before. But we get to talk to him today, really, and chat. So who do we have on today, Jocelyn?
So we have brought with us, Kim, we have Andy May on the podcast with us today of Dice Masters fame, and he is here as a special guest because he won our 3-year anniversary podcast poll from the Happy Anniversaries, and he got 2 of the 3 right,
so,
2 of the 5. 2 of the 5 right, and was also the only person that followed the directions on how to participate. So,
sorry, Matt. You're still disqualified.
He's very upset by that DQ. So welcome, Andy, and thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
And I'm just going to put a little thing in there. All of our guests are special, regardless of how long ago they were on the podcast. Okay. So anyone who was on the podcast before, you are also a special guest. But yeah, so we're happy to have you with us today, Andy. And Andy May, sometimes referred to as Andy America by our friends over at the Ministry of Dice, Chris and Andy, the other Andy. Which Andy is the first Andy? Ooh, that is the question. So welcome.
Well, thanks.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for being supportive of this particular prize.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I could, as I put it to you, Jordo question mark my way to the win.
That's right.
Jordo's probably like, man, I could have been on the podcast. Well, I think we've had Jordo on.
You remember Jordo being on the podcast. So Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit, because last time you were on the podcast, you were on the game show, which was a long time ago, like in our first year.
That was that was Jeopardy, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Jeopardy.
I took home the dice bag.
Yeah, we need to do that Jeopardy game again, because that was a lot of fun. Anyway, so that's a long time ago, before I had this mic, and we're going to chat with Andy a little bit. So Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into Dice Masters?
Oddly enough, I didn't really like it the first time I played it. So my brother-in-law popped out a starter set at Christmas in 2014. So the first year, it was an Uncanny X-Men starter, and we played a game. And it was kind of the starter game where you have a couple of characters and a couple of basic actions. And I was like, this isn't really my thing, but I'm an X-Men sucker. And so I kept watching on Amazon, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to pick up one of those starters. And so I got it, and my daughter Alex was 9, and we sat down with the starter and we played the game. And it was some of the most fun that we've ever had. We just laid on her floor and rolled dice and giggled a lot, because one of us was using Reckless Melee, which was a basic action card in that set where you just deal damage to everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything everywhere.
Okay.
And so every time we'd hit with Reckless Melee, it was like that was fun for a 9-year-old. That was hilarious to her that all of our sidekicks were just gone, and we had Wolverine and Kitty Pryde left and nothing else. So
yeah.
Then we figured out that you could go play in stores. And so we started to play in stores around Age of Ultron, I think, was our first draft set. And we had accumulated quite a bit after that, because again, I'm kind of an X-Men sucker. So I started getting the X-Men cards, and so we were playing a lot, especially with that Cyclops that clears the field from AVX. Was kind of that was my treasured card, where he does his attack in damage to all characters when he attacks before the attack actually, before the attack and block actually happens. So I don't know. I got really into the game. I got really interested. I had a lot of fun playing in stores. I met some of the most fun people I've ever met playing games. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. So in 2018 was the first time that Alex and I tried to go play nationals when it was a pretty big nationals field that year. And so we missed out on qualifying and had a really good time at Origins. And then in 2019, both of us actually played in nationals and played some of the side tournaments as well. And then I guess Memphis that year before the pandemic was my first Worlds. So
yep, and that was when I met you.
Yeah.
Back at 2019 Worlds, my first Worlds as well. So and then the pandemic happened.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden it's 3 years later, and since then we went back to Memphis, Andy.
We did, yeah. So you and I met up again last fall to go play in 2022 Nationals and Worlds. So.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to play in Nationals. I was playing HeroClix.
That's right, you did Clicks that day. Yep.
I did. My other love of HeroClix.
Dice Masters will still always be your first.
Dice Masters will be my first, and most loved competitive tabletop game. But HeroClix has a special place in my heart now as well. So yeah, I didn't play in Nationals, but you played in Nationals, Andy, and I believe you did extraordinarily well there.
I had a good day. I made it to the championship table. So
that's right. And top 2, second place in the world, and that's
second place in the nation. But
spoiler alert: the same people played in Worlds.
Yeah.
So second place in the nation, and of course that was won by our fellow Canadian, Dana. Dana is the U.S. national champion.
Yes.
AKA the General Nemesis. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was a hard fought day.
It was fun to be the best player in the U.S. after that for about 24 hours till I lost in Worlds. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a really good run. So you started playing competitively, you started playing in stores, and then you started playing competitively at Worlds and national type events. How do you prepare for like a big event like that? Like, how did you prepare for Memphis 2022?
So I prepared more for this last one than I ever have before, really. Usually I've got a combination of 2 or 3 cards that I really, really want to play, and I'm trying to figure out the support pieces around them, and I kind of don't do it because I'm a procrastinator. And so the last 2 days before, I'm throwing in like, these are the 8 cards that I might use, and that's, I'm going to take these with me in my deck box. But last year, Charlie Cates and I played quite a bit online beforehand, and we were kind of trying out, because he was trying to figure out what he was going to do too. Mm-hmm. So we were trying out the Barry Allen quite a bit, and then I was working on a master mold team. What's that?
The rare Barry Allen.
The rare Barry Allen, yeah, because it was kind of the hotness. Yes, mm-hmm. And so we were trying to figure that team out, and it was really good. And I had a master mold team, but I was losing to the Barry Allen. And when maybe the night before I left, I went over and played with Troy Miller. He and I are both in Minneapolis area. And so he was beating me with the Barry Allen too. And he brought up, you're not losing to Barry Allen. You're losing because of the Starro. Because you're fielding stuff that Starro can grab onto and use against you because you're using the Sinister Global. And so he's like, that Deken that we talked about is not so crazy. So yeah, that's kind of how I put that team together. And then I practiced it a whole bunch. So it must have been 2 nights before I left, because the next day I just frantically sat at the table and like practiced turns and practice turns, and then I'm geeky enough to play against myself if that's what it takes. So I put the Barry Allen team across the table from me and kept playing the Master Mold team with the Decan, and all of a sudden it wasn't a threat whatsoever. So that became my little toolbox team. I used the Master Mold and the Sinister, and everything else on there was how do I make that team a little bit better, or how do I add a piece that I need? And that's putting the effort in ahead of time definitely helped a lot.
Yeah.
So it turned out much better than usual. But the hours paid off for sure.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I mean, nothing to sneeze at. And Master Mold is as crazy as we all thought it was. And I really don't think anything can hold a candle to it yet.
It's an amazing ability, but you have to surrender to the card. Really, you've got to put 6 other cards around it to make sure that it's going to go and do all the things that you want to. And then you maybe have a flex spot. Like I played the first day of Nationals, I played the spot as my flex, because in a lot of the games I was playing, I was coming up like I need to get one more character through for the other 2 damage, and I just couldn't get it. And so I put the spot on there thinking I can buy that late game. I know I'm going to pull it out of my bag right away because of Sinister, and if I roll the double energy, I can declare something can't block. That's the damage I need. Or I roll the spot, and that's maybe the damage I need. And then I never used the spot whatsoever on that first day. I just didn't need it. But, it's figuring out what tools to put around the Master Mold that really builds the team.
You do have to commit to that as a strategy with the Master Mold team. Like you said, it's basically Master Mold plus Mr. Sinister for the global, and everything else is there to support it. And there's a few different variations, but all of the best ones include Decan, and all of the best ones include Villainous Pact.
Yep.
And that's where I was struggling when I was practicing with it, and Rob was practicing with it. We were trying to decide what we wanted to play, and I was like, how are we getting damage through? And it wasn't until the Villainous Pact light went off on my head to say, oh yeah, if you don't have villains and you can't block, then all of a sudden I was like, yeah, okay, this is how it works. This is the magic, right? So and then from there, but I ended up playing Thor in Worlds, which can do really amazing things, and it has beaten Master Mold, and I almost beat a Master Mold that particular day, and I still really like the Thor Jorgemann's Fear, and but I didn't quite make it as far as you, Andy.
I think there's a strategy with the Thor that I haven't fully fleshed out yet, because the thing about Decan is it's on your opponent's turn that you take no more than 7. So with Thor Jubilee especially, if you can Sinister a couple times on your opponent's turn with the Thor Jubilee, you can put through as much damage as possible with those 2. You just can't do it on your own turn. But if you can wait, suddenly that becomes more of a weapon, even with Decan. So I think there's something there. I just didn't fully flesh that out.
Well, and now we have a whole new set to help us decide what we want to do with this stuff. Because since we were together in Memphis, we now have Secret Wars. Secret Wars is in hand finally.
Yeah, and there's some very cool stuff. So I got a case on opening night, and just got through the last of it this last weekend, drafting with my brother-in-law. So yeah, it's in the binder. It's kind of fun having a new set in the binder.
It is for sure. So Kim and I have had the opportunity to draft it, 3
multiple times?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
3 times now in the store, I think. And then I've played a few sealed games with Rob. And there's some really cool stuff in this set. So what are your thoughts of the set, Andy, so far?
It feels undercosted, which isn't a bad thing. It just, compared to history, I feel like the stats are bigger for cheaper, and maybe that came along in Kryptonite Crisis, and I didn't utilize it as well as I could have, but I really notice it here, that I can get some brutish characters out there for cheap, because there are a lot of 4 costs. Like the Thors are, I think, all 4 costs, or maybe at least a couple of them. Yeah, 4 and 5, I guess. But yeah, the common Thor at a 4 cost, that's a big body for 4. And there are a couple of 2 costs that can do some damage. I mean, it's neat. It's definitely more of a smashy face set where you need to get in there and start attacking against your opponent. There's some opportunities to lay back and do some damage, but yeah, you got to come and swing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What do you think, Kim?
Yeah, I would agree too. Galactus, woo!
Yeah.
Talk about Galactus, Kim. Tell us about Galactus.
Oh, wait, my story about Galactus, or
whatever you like?
No, I just like it because it has a 10-10. You know how great that is with Orbital Strike, even though Orbital Strike's not modern anymore. And I played it on the weekend before Roll for the North.
Yeah, but it's 4 character sides.
Yes.
The first card, first die ever in Dice Masters, it has 4 character sides and 2 energy sides. So.
Yep. And the blank one is a 5 cost, and you can pretty much get him for 1 cost, really, honestly. So it's kind of crazy.
It's
as Andy was saying, yeah, it's just the cheapest. Like, to buy these things so cheap, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And a lot of 2, 3, 4 costs doing such good stuff, and so cheap to buy.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Andy, that in Superman Kryptonite Crisis, we did start to see a little bit of this stat lowering. Like, some of the cards had lower costs, but then they had like a drawback. Like, the one that's coming to my mind is the Supergirl. I think it's the common. She's only a 3 cost. The stats are really good. The fielding costs kind of suck because she thinks she's a 1, 2, 3. But the drawback to her 3 cost is that your opponent's sidekicks get +1 attack or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've got these big stats, but you have to give your opponent something in order to get that. And there is a little bit of that in this set as well. But definitely there's cards that when I was looking at them in draft, I was like, wow, that's only a 2 cost. That's only a 3 cost. So there is that. But I also think they've balanced some things. So we were talking earlier about the Master Mold team and the Mr. Sinister Global. We didn't talk specifically about what those do, but hopefully everybody in the world knows that by now. But so the Sinister Global in specific, right? The 2 generic to spend to field the sidekick and prep a sidekick from your use pile. When you get into the new set, now you're paying a single energy and a life to field the sidekick, right? Yeah. Or you're paying a single fist and you both field a sidekick. You end your opponent. Or things have once per turn stipulations that they didn't have before. Like if you think about the Dark Phoenix Global, which is just pay a bolt and KO a character die you control. The next die you purchase costs 2 less. The new Apocalypse Global says once per turn spend a bolt to KO a character die you control, and the next die you purchase costs 2 less. So that chaining stack of discounts is being reduced, and I think the value of fielding sidekicks out of your use pile has been seen by WizKids, and now they've gone from, famine or feast to famine here.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's out there now is the pirate broadcast. So it's easy enough to, if you want to wait for your turn to sinister, or your opponent's turn to sinister, your opponent might shut that off before you get the opportunity.
Yeah, and the pirate broadcast global, that one's still a generic, right?
Yeah, it is. K1 target global ability cannot be used until start of your next turn.
Yeah.
Uses only once per turn.
Yeah.
Didn't we use that against each other, Jocelyn?
100%.
In one game we kept using it against each other.
And
it's kind of annoying.
The action itself, right, is also there. Cancel any persistent global ability effects. Neither player may use global abilities until end of turn. And prep a die from your bag.
Yeah. That's Nefarious Broadcast, isn't it? But Nefarious Broadcast was a 2 cost.
That's right, but it didn't have the prep.
Exactly.
No.
One more cost, but another ability on it, which is pretty cool. It's a good card.
And then the global, of course, is a callback to, like, for me, I haven't been playing as long as you have, Andy, but the global's a callback to the Blackbird global from the XFC set.
Yep.
I don't know if it existed before that, but
I don't remember it. No,
yeah.
that was and that was cool. A lot of people brought Blackbird on competitive teams for a while there. So it's fun to see all the global hate on one basic action. It's just
I would just take that global and turn that global off. That's what I do.
I've done that in games before. Yeah.
Yeah. I call it the mini game, right? So you will use that global on one of my globals, and then when my turn comes around, I just start turning that global off every turn.
Yep.
And it's like 1 energy. Sure, I've always got 1 energy kicking around, so I'll just turn that global off, and then Kim starts to get like, "What? You turned that off again?"
I know. It gets to the point, honestly, it's a little annoying because I'm turning it off, and you're turning it off, and you're turning it off, and then you're turning it off.
But we all have to spend energy to do it. So, it's one of those things. Are you going to spend that energy to field a character or purchase a character? Or are you going to use it to spend that global hate, right? So, and I think global hate is something we've been missing since we've got this new modern rotation that started with Infinity Gauntlet. I mean, we got a little bit of it in Dark Phoenix, right? With the super rare Lalandra.
Yeah. And with the limited number of globals in set, that Pirate Broadcast is obviously meant to be used in competitive play. There's not a lot of global to turn off if you're sitting in a draft game with this set.
This is true. And there's also not a lot of prep in this set, which is why that Pirate Broadcast basic action is really good, because you can buy it and prep a die.
Yeah. Otherwise, are there 2 copies of the Fist prep?
Yeah. Is it on the Wolverine again?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the Wolverines, and I think the Thing.
Yeah, it's the uncommon. Once per turn on your turn, prep a die from your bag.
Yeah. And
I don't think it's on all of them.
No, it's just on the uncommon.
Yeah, and the rare Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wolverine's sitting right in front of me.
So I'm not a comic book person that much, really, Andy. Like I've read a little bit of Fantastic Four and things like that, but I'm drawing here because he's called Thing on the card, and I keep wanting to say the Thing. Is he Thing or the Thing? Do you know?
I don't know what his preferred nomenclature is, but yeah, he's usually Thing when they refer to him. I always call him the Thing as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if that's just something I didn't know, or if that's like a Secret Wars thing, because the story of Secret Wars, which I have not read, but is it's like alternate realities kind of thing, right? Like all these different, the multiverse gets destroyed or something, and all of these people from different multiverses come together and are, that's why you have different versions of things. It's why Black Panther has the Thano die and things like that, right?
Yeah, I haven't read the series. I read the original Secret Wars, which there's a throwback to that one on the Instant War full art. That's the original Secret Wars from the 80s.
Gotcha.
But I know this one has, so the regular Marvel Universe is the 616. I'll try not to go too far down this rabbit hole. And then they've kind of merged the regular Marvel Universe with the Ultimate Universe and with some of the What If universes. And that's the idea, that bits and pieces of these universes were pulled together to create Battle World. And Battle World is where the Secret Wars happen.
Yeah. Yeah, they were talking about, so at the store, we talked about our draft a couple of episodes ago when Rob was our guest, Kim. And no, the draft before Rob was our guest. So there's the Ultimate Spider-Man who has the subtitle Pocket Burger, and then we talked about the Molecule Man, the super rare Molecule Man that says he's like cheeseburger eater. So when we were at the store, Marcus was telling us about the little mini storyline. There's apparently a storyline about how Molecule Man was like super hungry, and Ultimate Spider-Man pulled this cheeseburger or hamburger out of his pocket that had been in his pocket for a while, hence Pocket Burger, and Molecule Man ate it, so he's the cheeseburger eater. It's just like a little throwaway storyline or something that was in the books, but I just laughed. I thought it was funny.
I was wondering about that. Cool.
So I probably am not doing the story justice. I'm sure that our friends that know something about Secret Wars are probably sitting there with their hands in, their head in their hands going, Jocelyn, what have you done? But, please feel free to send me a link or something so that we can correct that if I've done it wrong.
Train wreck.
Yeah, pop culture train wreck. I don't think it was that bad, honestly. I think I did okay. Just putting it out there. So you said you got a case. You drafted it with your brother-in-law, or
Drafted a little bit. Yeah. Kind of. I opened stuff and drafted stuff, and opened stuff and drafted some other stuff. So I've been through a couple of draft kind of scenarios. Yeah.
Any standouts in your mind?
That super rare multiple man with any of the Gwen, or I keep calling multiple man, Miracle Molecule Man, with any of the Gwen Stacy's, Spider Gwens is fantastic. Like those Spider Gwens are just, they're all, you should just attack with those dice every turn. Every one of them is built to attack every single turn, except the one that can attack when she's fielded, but then you have to attack the next turn to try to get to field her again so that she can just clear bodies. But yeah, they're really good cards. I had the Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man common that fields for free.
Mm-hmm.
That was surprisingly fun to use too. I mean, it's a 3, 4, 5 attack, and that's another one where it's just like, I'm just going to swing. What have I got to lose? So
yeah.
Rob
played that in one of our drafts, the one that fields for free, and it was very effective because you didn't have to save any energy for it.
Nope.
It's just like, oh yeah, he just fields for free. That's his ability.
No, and if you can get a couple of them, you throw 3 or 4 dice on him and go get him.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was a good one.
Yeah.
Is he a 2 cost or a 3 cost? 3 cost, right?
I think he's a 3 across. Yeah, he's a 3 across the board. All of his rarities. Well, I don't have the super rare in front of me, but yeah.
Yeah, Spider-Man. Well,
the Namors are good.
His super rare is a 5 cost.
Okay.
Spider-Man, right?
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Or Ultimate Spider-Man. Oh, no, yeah. He's 3 across the board except for his super rare is a 4.
Okay. Yeah, the Namors are super fun. The draft-wise, the common Captain Marvel that gives +1/+1 is excellent.
To all your characters.
Yes. Yeah. I managed
I think
a
Namor
team.
super fun could be objectively questioned depending on which side of the Namor you're playing there.
When
Andy.
you control the Namor, it's super fun. Yeah. No, I managed a draft with the buffing Captain Marvel, the rare Invisible Woman that buffs sidekicks, and Fantastic Four, and the Namor, and that got devastating really quickly because sidekicks turned into 3/3s, and so it's a matter of, it's totally worth it to pay the Magic Global to jump a 3/3 into the field for 1 life, or Absolutely. The Madeline Pryor. Yeah, that was a fun one too. I actually had the rare Black Swan on that team too that buffs shield character dice, but I didn't get her out. I didn't need her, but she would have buffed the Namors for another 1/1. So there's some fun draft buffing to be done.
The rare Invisible Woman is the only rare I don't have.
Okay.
I am looking for a rare Invisible Woman. So if anyone out there has a rare Invisible Woman, let's chalk. So I'm also missing rare Scarlet Witch, but I've made arrangements for a trade for that already. So, but I also got a case of product, and the distribution was really good. Did you find that in your case, Andy?
I was going to say good on WizKids this time, because in the case I actually got all the rares out of the case. Mm-hmm. So I got every card in the set without the super rares. Every box had 3 either super rares or fat cards, and I think I got 3 runs of commons, almost 2 runs of uncommons, and then the full run of rares with some extras for trading. So I'm pretty happy with how it went getting a whole case. I don't like to buy a whole case, but you know, I used to buy 2 gravity feeds and get kind of that same distribution.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's a collectible card game. It's
Yeah, no, I hear you. Like, I only started buying a case with Superman. And I think we tried to do it with Dark Phoenix, and we had trouble getting product up here in Canada, so I couldn't maybe get a whole case at the time or something like that. But unless I did get a case and I've forgotten. But it was either Dark Phoenix or Superman where we started getting cases. And then part of the reason we decided to do that was because it's been so hard to get product up here, right? And we didn't have stores that were doing a good job of supporting us here in Toronto. So we didn't have the opportunity to do drafts. Like, the fact that Kim and I got to sit down and draft with, like, whatever, 4 other people, or there was 5 of us, I think, on opening day. Like, product launched, product arrived, product was in hand, we were able to draft it. It was amazing, right? We've never had that where we are before, since I've been playing. Maybe way back when Dice Masters came out, things were different. I didn't play then. I didn't play in stores. I didn't even know stores played Dice Masters until way long into my journey with DM. So and now we have plenty of product. Like, our store wants to support us, and he was able to purchase a decent supply, and we can draft pretty much as much as we want. Right?
Yeah, we have a lot.
We were able to get a good supply, so we can draft as much drafting as we want, and unless he sells a bunch of it or whatever. But the sealed case distribution for this set was really good, really well done. Certainly better than Superman. Superman was a challenge.
Yeah.
I was not one of the unlucky ones that had a horrible display, but in Rob's case, he had that one display that had 0 super rares in it.
Oh, ouch.
0 super rares, 0 full arts.
That was the one with the, like, weird wrapping too, wasn't it?
Yeah, they all had the sticky tabs.
Yeah.
And anyway, but that was a rough display. But yeah, I came out of this short a couple of rares. I have rares for trade. I have quite a lot of extra uncommons. I definitely have 2 sets extra of commons out of it. I have dice for eons.
Mm-hmm.
I have enough dice. I could get mad at a die and throw it away, and probably do that like for 14 dice before I ran out of dice for any particular character. So it was really well done, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's really good. The only thing I'll say is we don't really need the cards wrapped. It's really hard to get into.
No, that was terrible. Unless you're gonna put a tab, those pull tabs on it.
Yeah.
The gold little thing that goes, you can pull and it goes around and you hit the top and it comes off. Like, put that.
Yep.
At least if you're gonna do it.
The little tiny, almost invisible to see little circle was not quite there. Like, by the time someone identified that existed, I'd already tried to open a few packs, and then very carefully I used like an X-Acto type knife or whatever, a box cutter. Very carefully. I was very lucky with all of my product. I didn't damage anything, but it could have been very easily. I could have damaged something. So
Yeah,
I scratched my back of my super with my nails because of that.
Yeah, at least it's on the backside though.
That's true.
Yeah, those little circles are supposed to be a weak point. You should be able to put your thumbs on either side and kind of pull it apart, and the packaging will rip. But I will guarantee you can't, because I tried so many times. Like, maybe this one is weaker. Nope. Yeah.
We're gonna try that on Thursday, Jocelyn.
Yeah, we'll give that a shot.
Yeah.
But more than likely, I'll end up pulling out my box cutter and doing it the way I've been doing it up until this point.
It's the quickest and easiest way. Yeah.
Yeah. Just be cautious.
Well, if you pull it up, right? You put it in and pull up.
Yeah. Yeah. She's gotta.
It'll be off.
Careful. You don't want to do it hastily. Last thing you want to do is leave a Dice Masters draft because we've sliced our hands open or something like that.
There's blood on my super rare. No!
Don't bleed on the super rare. Don't bleed on the full art.
The Casket of Ancient Winners is going to be the most expensive card in the set someday because they're all damaged from us tearing into them with knives.
Right.
And stuff.
Absolutely. What do you think of the new design?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go cons first so that we end on a good note. And I thought the full art cards in the last few sets were kind of the pinnacle of card design. I like the way the full arts looked. I know the text can be difficult to read at times, especially on the foil versions. But they're really pretty, and I like seeing more of the artwork. But I understand why that wasn't really all that sustainable. Because I look at these and I don't get as much of the art as I'd like to see, but I get a much cleaner text box. The text box is kind of a throwback to the way they started. But I really like being able to see the rarity in one corner. I like the colors that indicate the energy type because it looks really cool when I fan it out. Honestly, there's not. Otherwise, I'm not sure I need the color, but it really looks neat when you grab a stack of cards and just sort of unfold them in your hand. It looks really pretty. And I don't think that we needed the full die strip, so it's great that that space is utilized for something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The readability is huge for me. And I think there's probably still some tweaks that they could make, like with the art, like you said, maybe making. Although, with that said, the renderings of the art versus the actual cards in my hand, like, I thought the renderings looked good. The cards in my hand look better.
Yep, I agree. And I love the idea. Jimmy had told me about this in Memphis too. Any card without text is just going to be a full art card. And those look fantastic. The Colossus, I think, is the only one I've gotten foil of those, but the Colossus is gorgeous in foil. So I'm very excited to see the others in foil as well, especially the Spider-Man one. I think that's going to be a really cool foil card.
I have the Spider-Man, and I have the Molecule Man in foil. But I would like the Franklin's Galactus in foil.
Me too.
and I am not one of these people that collects everything. Like, I know there's people out there that want every foil and every non-foil and whatever. I just want a card to play. It's rare that I specifically go after a foil, but for that Franklin's Galactus, I want a foil for that one.
So the dead bodies just sort of pop off the card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's only 3 of them, isn't there? Colossus, Franklin's Galactus, Spider-Man.
The Molecule Man common.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But they're all commons. We didn't have any blank uncommons or text. No text uncommons. Right. So
yeah, it's true.
But they all look really good.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, except for the one art that I really hate.
Is that Sheriff Strange, Kim?
Yes, the yawning Sheriff Strange. Oh, that's what he looks like he's doing.
Maybe he's singing.
No.
I think he's yelling at somebody, but it's
yawning.
It's not good art.
So. I honestly pictured in my head like Sheriff Strange, like he's got like a cowboy hat on, and he's like coming down like all like with his long clothes, and it's like waving in the back. You know how like a cowboy comes knocking down with the gun in there. That's how I pictured him. That is not how I pictured him. That's how it is on the card. That would have been awesome, actually, picture. But then again, I don't know the Secret Wars and how he looked and all that stuff. So
maybe there'll be an alt art card, Kim.
Sure, if we ever get an we need an op kit.
I mean, you never know. Maybe there'll be something when convention season starts.
Who knows?
That would be really fun. Maybe you two will get the opportunity to spoil something like that in the future.
I hope so. I hope we get that opportunity, and if not, then I hope that something does come out, because I know WizKids hasn't said anything about Dice Masters yet, but HeroClix did get an announcement last week that WizKids said they were going to be at San Francisco Comic-Con, Gen Con, and that Memphis would be happening again in September, dates to follow. And that was part of their HeroClix summer convention exclusives announcement. So I think in the next few weeks, we'll probably hear something about when Memphis is going to be happening. Right now, we just know September, but don't know when. And hopefully there'll be Dice Masters at those events as well. And maybe there'll be more conventions. And I know WizKids does a lot of board games, and they've got Onslaught out there now. And maybe there'll be more stuff. So
yeah. They are releasing a ton of board games right now, too. So if you get the WizKids newsletter, you've seen all the stuff for pre-order lately. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So you play Dice Masters in, near home, and you said you're near Minneapolis.
Yeah.
You've got your kiddos at home, and Alex was a past guest on the podcast as well.
Yes.
As well as Logan. I think I recorded Logan.
Logan showed up in the Gen Con episode.
Yeah. So do they still like playing Dice Masters?
Nope. They've Alex likes it, but Alex is very busy with school. She's my studious kid. So in the summer she might go out and play a couple times with me. We'll have to wait and see. But Logan has decided that maybe it's not for him, which is kind of sad because he was getting really good. So I was hoping he'd stick with it. Yeah, but if he's not having fun, I'm not going to push him. I'll just let him know when I'm going, and if he wants to join me, he's more than welcome. But that's as much as I'll do. See if he wants to join me tonight.
And do you have a local scene? Do you get to play in person often?
We play every 2 weeks. So
that's pretty good.
Our scene, when I played in a regional in 2017 here, we had 32. We filled the region. And our scene was probably, 25 players that came and went. Maybe we saw them 3-4 times a year. Maybe we saw them every other week. And we had multiple stores that were running events. Now we have one. So every other Wednesday we play. One Wednesday is a draft. The next Wednesday is constructed. And then we go back and we draft and then construct it back and forth like that. And there are 6 of us that are very good about coming, and then some people who kind of float in and out still. So it's still a pretty solid scene here as far as Dice Masters goes. But it's definitely dwindled over the years. It was really fun when we got Dark Phoenix because all of a sudden we saw players who were like, I haven't played anything since AVX, but this set looked really fun. So I came out to play. And so we've got a couple of those folks who've been attending events, every other month or so, which is fantastic. Just come out when you can, and we're happy to see people. Anybody can help us grow the scene. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think the new card design is going to draw people in?
I think it's definitely going to be less daunting than the old card design, and that's kind of what I meant. I said something to the effect of, I get why that wasn't the full arts weren't a great idea. It looks like a pretty serious game when you're talking about full art with text that's kind of readable but not really on some of it. So if somebody took home a pack of Kryptonite Crisis or Dark Phoenix, I'm not sure that it would have inspired them to come play the game in the local scene. And I think they did 2 things really well with this. One of them is the text is very clear, not just to read, but it's very clear on these cards. There are a couple that are going to confuse us, but I think this set is worded better than anything recent, especially probably anything since way back. As far as just the clarity of what does this card do, it does exactly what it says. The other thing is those origin packs at $7. I really like the cards that they threw in there. I think that 2 people could grab one of each origin pack and go home and play the beginner game with those and have a balanced team on either side as far as what they can do to each other with those 2 teams. And you get 2 basic actions, you get 2 characters, you get plenty of dice, even though the maxes are lower than 4. Just ignore that if it's your first game, and put out all 8 dice. And they're 2s and 3s in cost. I think one of the basic actions might be a 4, but it's going to get people to start to get used to mechanics and hopefully enjoy the game. And then you each stack a draft pack on top of it, and you can build a full team and really get into it. So I think that there's a lot here to love. I really do. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Kim, what do you think?
Great.
You're so quiet over there.
I've said my piece with Secret Wars. I think I'm good.
I know. But yeah, the origin packs are well done. I think they did a really good job. I think that there's still, a little bit of room to continue to improve, but overall it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything for us, Andy? Did you want to ask us any questions, or did you have anything you wanted to add that we haven't covered yet?
Well, you know what I should mention? Back in the day, there was a Firefly fan set. And so I don't know how many. Well, I guess this won't come out in time. This week we're going to draft a Firefly fan set at our local event. It was produced in very limited quantities before it got shut down, and you could buy it on Etsy. Whoever designed it, I'm not going to mention any names. Whoever designed it put it out on Etsy as like a custom deck of 52 cards. There were 3 of those, and if you got them all, you got the whole set. And so they put them out there at whatever price it took to not make any profit. And so for like $15, I got the whole Firefly set and sleeved it up and put it in draft packs with 2 dice in every card, or for every card, and we're going to draft pack it. So we'll see how that goes this week. I'll report back if you're interested. Yeah.
I would love to hear how that went. I did really enjoy the Firefly TV series and movie, so.
I tried to watch it. I couldn't get through it.
To each their own.
Yeah. How many cards did they produce?
It was the old style. So there was a starter and then, the usual distribution. So like 40 commons, okay. 32 uncommons, whatever it was.
That's a lot.
So,
wow.
Yeah. And there's some promos in there to fill it out. So there were some blank cards. I actually had Stu do a Reavers card for me.
Nice.
Not too long ago. Yeah.
That would be Stuart over in the UK.
Yep. I sent him a bunch of cool stuff that he wanted and asked if he would draw on that card and send it back. So that was part of our trade.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds super cool. You're keeping it interesting and exciting and fresh at your local store. I like the concept of draft and then constructed and alternating, so you got something for everybody there. And then doing things like this Firefly fan set, which is fantastic. So that's awesome. And hopefully, if you're in Minneapolis area, you can head out to Andy's local game store and join them for Dice Masters every second Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody is nearby who's listening, we play at Games by James in Edina, Minnesota. So, in the Southdale Mall, America's first indoor mall.
I don't know how I can top that.
Yeah, well, just thought I should throw that in. That's like a history lesson, so that's a bonus for everybody.
Absolutely, 100%. We like the historic facts here, even when we make them up. That's fantastic. Well, thanks, Andy, for joining us. It's been really great to have you on the podcast. And,
absolutely.
Congratulations again on your win for the happy anniversary game. And I think, Kim, we're going to turn it over here and maybe we'll do coming events.
We just finished a roll for the North. I think we're going to be breaking for a little bit and then we'll be back, I think, in the fall for 2-team takedown. But I'm sure there'll be other events in between there. Other than that, Weekly Dice Arena happens every Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern. So if you can, join us for that. And now that Secret Wars is out, we'll probably be playing a lot more of that. And hopefully we'll use the online draft to do that as well one night.
Nice.
Yeah, that should be fun. But that's it.
Unless you're in the UK.
Which I keep always forgetting that something's happening in the UK.
UK Games Expo, first weekend in June. So if you're in the UK and you're heading over to the UK Games Expo, or if you're in the UK and you're not planning to go there, why aren't you? Because they're playing Dice Masters. So Ministry of Dice presents Dice Masters at the UK Games Expo, and you can get all the information about that over on BritRoller6.com. And we would encourage you to go and participate with our friends Chris and Andy over there in the UK. So, Dice Bag, Kim?
Dice Bag.
Awesome. So we got a little bit of feedback last week, but probably the most exciting piece was that we heard from someone we've never heard from before.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kim, tell me about this one. Where did this one come from?
The YouTube.
The YouTube. We heard from Christian Pence. And Christian said, "Great episode. I would love to hear more about your thoughts on the new set, favorites, more disappointing, interesting, etc." So Thank you, Christian. We will take all of those and make episodes out of them.
So one episode favorites, one episode most
disappointing. No, we can't do most disappointing as its own episode because that would be sad. Because we don't want to have an episode that's an entire downer, right?
But the people want to know.
The people have spoken. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Christian has spoken.
Christian has spoken.
Thanks, Christian, for listening, and thanks for putting a comment on the YouTube. We really appreciate it. We heard from regular podcast contributor Jackalope Spam, aka Nick. So he said, so your draft strategy is getting a specific super rare and a rare seems simple enough. And I was like, so when he first put this, I thought he just meant like rare drafting. But then when I read the word specific, I was like, oh, so he's talking about super rare Molecule Man and rare Spider-Gwen, which is what I talked about. I'm not saying it's a draft strategy. I am saying if you get it, it's awesome. That's what I'm saying. He says, drafting the set looks fun. There is one potential downfall, though, not a lot of ramp globals, which we talked about here just with Andy. Apparently Super Rare Thing also has the prep global on it, according to Nick. He says there's only uncommon, Wolverine, rare, and Super Rare Thing. Otherwise, it looks like you need to rely on some of those cards offering a discount or rolling more dice. That seems plentiful. And yeah, there's definitely stuff that does discounts and what have you. So we also heard from Chris at the aforementioned Ministry of Dice. And Chris, I believe, was trying to manufacture a pop culture train wreck because I was right in the last episode when I said Randall Park played Jimmy Woo. He tried to tell me it was somebody else. And I was like, I don't think so, dude. I think that you're trying to manufacture this pop culture train wreck. And he followed that up with like a who, me gif. So I'm pretty sure I was right. But he did say that with his own box, in the safety of not being observed, he 100% took a big old sniff of that first box at the display to take in that new card smell. And he talked about that on his podcast, Ministry of Dice, this week. Or last week when you hear this. So I'm not sharing anything that he hasn't shared with the public.
So Andy, did you smell your box?
Only because I opened it, but not intentionally, I guess. I'm sure there was a smell at the time.
See, Jocelyn and Chris are like the minority here.
I mean, I'm not going to speak for others, but I know there are other people that smell the cards.
All right, everybody, you know how you get reaching us at the end of the episode. So I want to know if you smell your cards or your box.
Nothing like that new card smell.
It's a thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very like tactile and I'm focused on things like scents. It's just it's me. Anyway, so Chris also sniffed his cards. Thank you.
Not just you.
Not just me. I'm not alone in this.
No.
It's me and Chris and a whole bunch of other people who have not admitted to it yet against the world. So he also continues with Molecule Man is very interesting for single affiliation fans. He said, but for him, the discount one has gone to the top of the list for him. He always found that Spider Friends have a ramp versus fielding cost issue. So which one's the discount one? Do we know, Kim?
This is Molecule Man? Oh, I just had a Molecule Man up. I was looking at the thing. Oh, because I can't spell Molecule Man, supposedly. Here we go.
Molecule Man.
This is the one with discounts? Oh, it's the super rare. No, it's super rare.
Yeah, it's the super rare.
Yeah, it's super rare. Your Spider Friends characters cost one less to field, one less to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so he's on board with the super rare Molecule Man, but he's just not looking at it from the extra part about the recruiting and the affiliation piece. He's looking at it for a different perspective, perhaps.
Yeah. The rare one is your opponent has to pay 2 to block each of your Fantastic Four characters, Deadly and in the blank. So,
yeah. So it's the same. We're talking about the same card, Chris. It's just you're focused on the other part of the text, and we're focused on the rest of the text. So there we go. And also, our other winner from our last episode reached out to us by email, and we got an email back from King of the Moon, who we have learned is actually our friend Red Mage over in Scotland. And he says, hello, Jocelyn and Kim. You say it was randomly selected, but we all know it's because I picked Mary Shazam, and she's the best one. I can keep that a secret Wars in parentheses, though. Always happy to participate in a survey and get those stamps on my loyalty card. So, Red Mage, your prize for being randomly selected in the survey, which was truly random. It was simply a bonus.
It was. I rolled a die.
She physically rolled a die. But the fact that you chose Mary Shazam was just the icing on that cake. So your prize will be hitting the mail soon, and watch out for that. So thanks so much for completing our survey. We love to survey people over here at A Double Double on Dice. Any last thoughts, Kim?
No.
Any last thoughts, Andy?
No, I was only hanging out on the mailbag part so that I didn't screw up the podcast. So,
and we appreciate that.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we love having you on the podcast, and hopefully I will come across you at a convention of some sort later this year, or Kim and I will see you in Memphis.
Right. Keep saying Kim. I don't know who this Kim is. I don't know who this person is just showing up in September, supposedly.
I feel like if I keep saying it, then you'll have to come. But either way, we'll come across one another, and hopefully we'll get you on the podcast again.
All right,
so
thanks.
Thanks again for coming on the podcast, and thanks to all of you who make our podcast great by A, listening, and B, providing us feedback and comments, and we love to hear that sort of stuff, and it's a huge part of what we do here. So we do want to hear from you, and Kim also wants to know if you smell your cards. So you can let us know that in all the usual places, which include sending us an email at tripledpodcast@dm-north.com. You can find us on all the socials, which are Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. I guess that's probably not all the socials, but that's all the socials we're on at dmNorthTV. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/dmNorthTV, on Twitch for live games at twitch.tv/dmNorthTV. And you can also join our Discord, dmNorthTV Discord. There'll be a link in the show notes below. And you can also at us on Discord. Kim is at SuperK and I am at JoceStitch, JoceStitch. So until next time, on A Double Double and Dice.